The aftermath of the riots in Southport in the UK has brought to the very front of the political agenda the critical discussion about the accountability, the responsibility, the social underpinning of dealing with unrest. And you deal with unrest no matter who causes it. And then you look at who is responsible for that cause. And so it's a two-pronged issue. Number one, dealing with the unrest, and number two, making sure the punishment fits the crime. In the case of the 12-year-old rioter in Manchester, the role of his family, especially his mother, comes under scrutiny as she took a trip to Ibiza at the same time as her son was facing sentencing. And this incident not only highlights the breakdown of parental responsibility, parental supervision, but also underscores the complex nature of juvenile involvement in violent disorder. The mother's actions, or lack of those actions, reflect the broader social questions about the role of guardians in guiding young people through periods of social tension and unrest. And her absence at the court, which she later justified as a misunderstanding, resulted in the court order for her to pay £1,200 in compensation and undergo a parenting course. And the symbolism of this sum being equated to the cost of her holiday by the judge underscores the moral message. Responsibility should not be so easily set aside, disregarded, ignored, because it's responsibility, or the lack of responsibility, which could be seen to lead to the rioting in the first place. The boy's involvement in two major incidents, targeting a hotel housing asylum seekers and storming a supermarket, raises the issue of youth susceptibility to the mob mentality. Of course, children can do foolish things, as, for example, the breaking of this incredibly expensive pot in a museum in Athens. But that was an accident. And yes, of course, I think there's pictures of the child going back into the museum to see it being fixed. But when mixed with deeper social anxieties about migration and economic stability, and about the child's diagnosis with ADHD, another layer of the discussion, complicating the narrative of intent and accountability. But it's that demonstration of willful abandon by his mother which is the deciding factor. His defense lawyer's argument that he acted impulsively under the influence of others underscores how easily young people can be manipulated or drawn into chaos without fully understanding the consequences of their actions and the dangers, therefore, of things like social media and various aberrant and ill-informed, ill-advised, ill-mouthed politicians and significant voices on the social media platforms, how much damage they can personally do, and how maybe they should be held accountable as well. But parenting is a significant part. So yes, somebody has a medical issue and strays off the path, and they're young. But we should look at the environment in which they are housed. Beyond this individual case, the broader legal response to the riots highlights the court's determination to address hate crime and the social unrest that has emerged, and from the conviction of a man who incited racial hatred on social media to a teenager being sentenced for religiously aggravated harassment, it's quite clear that the judiciary is taking a firm stance on any actions that contribute to social division and hatred. The teenager I'm thinking of is Max Richings in West Sussex, who was convicted of religiously aggravated hatred. He was this was near Brighton, I think, on the 4th of August, and he pleaded guilty. Richings pleaded guilty to inciting violence. Yeah, he was only 18, but he was involved in media posts that encouraged arson on Muslim religious buildings, and the judge said, even you must realise how serious the offences are and how seriously you are being viewed by the courts, and custody is the likely result. But is and even if people say that that they are sorry, the 25-year-old man who incited race hate on social media was Ersan Hussein from Birmingham, who pleaded guilty to writing threatening, abusive, and insulting written material intending to stir up racial hatred between the 3rd and the 6th of August. Nobody heard what the actual details of that material were, but he confirmed his plea and his personal details. And the prosecutor told the court that the maximum sentence available for the offence was 7 years in jail. He is apologetic and remorseful for his actions. Well, fine. But it's that mob mentality, it's that group think that encourages people to go beyond their instinctive position. They're whipped up by the mob to do something which is out of character. And that means it's the responsibility of the rest of society. And we have to look around at the rest of society that egged on or didn't hold back these weaker individuals who are not fully in control of their emotions and their sense of purpose. There's weaker individuals whose agency has been compromised. And we come back to the same issue again of agency. People who are no longer responsible for their agents because they have for their actions, because their agency has been perverted by what they have been constantly fed, by the algorithm of social media. So that in the end, if all they are receiving is posts about how awful immigrants are, then they start to believe that's all anyone is ever talking about. But it's not true. It's not true. It's a perversion by the social media platform. The social media platform is telling you more of what you want to hear. Just the same as Netflix. When you start watching stupid Netflix films, that's all you get offered. The same sort of diet of stupid Netflix films. And you think, this isn't what I watch. This isn't what I look at. Why am I being offered all this rubbish? There must be better for... You talk to your friends who say, what are you watching on Netflix? And they say, oh, I'm watching blah, 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 blah. I think, I don't even get offered that rubbish. I just get offered this diet of bland dullness. Why? Because for some reason that's all I don't watch television really, and I certainly don't watch Netflix very often. And maybe I should take more control of this rubbish, because if you don't take control, that's the default position of your algorithm. The bland rubbish. And the courts, in handing out these decisions, are sending a clear message about personal responsibility, social responsibility, and parental responsibility, and the long-lasting effects of disorder, especially when it involves targeting marginalized groups. While youth may act impulsively and without full comprehension, the legal system demands accountability not just from them, from the offenders themselves, but from their guardians and from the broader society. And yes, if that means knocking on the doors of sitting MPs, knock away. knock away because they belittle the role of justice by calling it two-tier, or by talking about tittle-tattle, or diminishing the harmful content to suggesting it's just postings on Facebook. These people, these people are as culpable or as capable of resetting our society. Let's put it in a positive term. These people have the power to reset our society, and they're not doing it. They need to be given that encouragement. And they need to take accountability. They need to take responsibility. And this reflects the recognition that social unrest, if left unchecked, tears at the fabric of our national community.